Welcome, dear friends, to Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls with the Spirit of Truth. Now, Parenting Edition. The Spirit of Truth is this book psychographed by two mediums, Waldo, Vieira, and Chico Xavier, and several spirit authors came through them in 1960, published in 1961, to tell us more about the truth. As Jesus said, the truth sets us free. And there are messages there that are particularly emphasizing parenting skills. It's a guidance for parents. So the mentors, the spirit mentors of Cardiac Radio have advised us to separate those messages and do a special program on it. And that's why we're here. Today, we have Analia Franco. Analia Franco, for those who don't know, you can see the picture here if you're watching us. And it's not too hard to find something about her on the internet, but she was Brazilian, yes, in her last life. She was born in the city of Resende in Rio de Janeiro, and she discarnated at 65 in the city of São Paulo, Brazil. She was a journalist, a poetess, a teacher, and a writer. She died in the Spanish flu in 1918, just like Professor Eurípides Barçanufo. Anália Franco, she became a spiritist, but not like any spiritist. No, she was a spiritist that revolutionized spiritism. Let's remember, she was born in 1853, and she died at the beginning of the 20th century, actually in 1919. So for us, it is important to note that she was one of the main pioneers in Brazil, in spiritism in Brazil, especially in the field of education, children. She revolutionized it. So she knows much about the importance of parenting. And she comes to us to talk about maternal vigil. What is it? It's this watch care of the mothers. She didn't say fathers, she said the mothers. And people ask me, but Vanessa, well, no matter how much we try to excuse ourselves from our task as women, mothers, we're the ones who gestate. We're the ones who have the first commitment with our child. Of course, that's the design of God. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, Analia Franco was inspired by a particular item 18, which talks about reincarnation as something that strengthens the ties amongst ourselves. Some people think that as we reincarnate, we're going to be separated from one another. No, reincarnation brings us closer together and adds more family members to the universal family. So Analia Franco, inspired in that, comes to tell you and I of the importance of maternal watch care. She begins this message by saying, of the mother who sips in silent tears the cup of bitterness before the disobedient child, and notes in the heart the love and pain throb together in depths and paroxysms. Disenchanted by the slight stains of indignity that you detect in your child's character, you notice, crying, that your child no longer is the heavenly appearance of the first days. And when pondering the initial bankruptcy, you fear The freedom that time will grant your child in constructing the destiny. Under the pretext of love, do not give in to subdued ground while carrying the thorn of anguish embedded in the soul. There is the need to watch over the sentry post. Do not distort the feeling that pulsates in your chest. Strengthen your own will, governing your impulses. To give in is always to despise. Be provident, trimming the whims. Turn on the light of prayer and meditate on the excruciating pains that also reached the sweet mother of Jesus, and raise your voice in correcting the thoughtlessness and immoderate longings that visit you if you want to make your child a good citizen. Dose, measure the salt of energy and the honey of mildness in the condiments, the seasoning of education. Neither disorderly freedom nor excessive attachment. If your child is your cross, remember that on earth there is no birth of saints. We are souls in struggle with ourselves. Then it is understandable that we all live often in struggle with each other, in the zigzagging steps of the experience. Be industrious and humble without being a slave. Do not cultivate heartbreak. Be faithful in hope. Do not seek ingratitude, nor collect or accumulate complaints. The divine mission of motherhood rests on the omnipotent strength of love. Involve your child in the word of blessing, which overcomes pride, and in the light of the example that dispels the shadows of rebellion. Make the good sentiments of your heart develop what the moths of centuries have covered and hidden. Do not make yourself a sleep butterfly when life asks you to be the faithful guardian of your child. In the river of human existence, spiritists are the drops of water that turn themselves into blades of throw against the stones of the obstacles, carving new paths. Spiritism generates free consciences. Prove this truth to your child through your own actions and renunciation and discernment, combining the balm of affection with the reins of authority. Do not try to forcibly transform your child into a chosen one amongst those called by the Lord. Children of the eternal, we are all citizens of eternity, and we only elevate ourselves to blows of effort and work in the hierarchy of reincarnations. Although often tortured in misunderstood selflessness, show to your child that the divine law is irreplaceable and that every spirit is responsible for themselves. This message is so deep that we could spend many days together discussing it. But for now, we're going to emphasize main highlights. First, she says, And we're going to go to the last third of the message in a major statement when she says, the divine mission of motherhood rests on the omnipotent strength of love. Period. Nowadays, the conquest for women's equality is getting confused, misunderstood. Yes, we're all equal, but our roles are different. We can occupy important positions in the world, but we need to restructure our society in such a way that we will prioritize our mission of mothers. And love is at the base, the foundation of it all. We see many parents nowadays who face exactly the scenario that Analia Franco is saying: disobedience, lots of issues. And many parents, especially mothers, they gravitate to this extreme freedom, wrong, or excessive rigidity. She's saying we need to season it, to temper it, to modulate it. The salt, she says clearly here, a beautiful statement, salt of energy, seasoning with the honey of mildness as the main seasonings of education. No excessive freedom, no excessive attachment. In between. Many of us want to give up and say, oh, what can I do? My child is now rebellious, especially when they become preteens, teenagers. What can I do? And here comes the recipe. She says, first of all, remember the sweet mother of Jesus. She experienced excruciating pains like we'll never experience in this life. There's nothing in this life that comes closer to what she went through. And what did she do? She prayed. She turned her heart to God. Many parents think that the problems of their children come from them. Not necessarily. When they imitate us, it tells more about who they are than of who we are. Why? Because if they were above it, they wouldn't. Though we're co-responsible for what we're imprinting on them. And some parents feel humiliated when they see the shortcomings of their children. They think they are bad people, they are bad parents, but there's no saint incarnating on earth, says Analia Franco. On earth, there's no birth of saints. We're all souls in struggle, she says. And it's understandable that we all live in struggle with each other in the zigzagging steps of experience. So we need to detach and be less self-centered. We're so self-centered, egotistic, that we often see our children as extensions of ourselves. They are not, no matter how much they resemble us. They are who they are. We are who we are, but we're together to evolve together. So the recipe today is to not give up. Number one, she says, to give in always is to despise. So if I become like, yeah, what can I say? My child is this way. It's like I don't care about them. I'm indifferent. She says, pray like Mother Mary. Be industrious and humble, but don't be a slave. It's like temperance, no excess. We need to do everything we can to avoid excesses because in our mental health, when we study psychopathologies, we're going to see in all types of psychopathologies excesses. People who want too much excitation or too much isolation. People who want too much adrenaline and people who want too much rest. Schizophrenias, depressions. So to be balanced, we need to cultivate temperance. We need to cultivate moderation, like Benjamin Franklin used to say. Something that we don't know much because we have lived many lives in excesses. In our society nowadays, you may agree. Tell me if you agree. Tell us. Everything is pushing us to excesses. Nowadays, there are people who are gravitating to isolating themselves because they've always wanted it. And they say, oh, that's a good life for me. But that's not a good sign of mental health. Some people are the opposite, very upset because they don't know how to be with themselves. Two extremes. We need to find common ground with God. Through social media, we can still be connected, but healthfully. Parents and children. But let's not be heartbroken by it. That's what she says. Don't be cultivating heartbreak. Remember, this child is a child of God. There's a statement Minter Joseph says, our problems are God's problems because he created us. He's taking care of us. He's guiding us. He's providing solutions. We're not alone. So when we parents face our children's shortcomings, their imperfections, our imperfections, we need to turn ourselves to God, be faithful in hope. There is a reason. There's a reason why we're together. And let us not be so, parents need to be less permeable, contaminated by their children's constructions in life. This is what we call emotional contagion. So parents need to strengthen themselves in emotional shielding. How do we shield ourselves? Praying, doing the good, moderating ourselves, finding our own good balance, and thus we'll be able to deal with our children's things because our children are actually God's children. So God is our partner. He counts on us to help that child. There are spirit protectors, guardian angels protecting that child. How often do you count on your child's guardian angel to help you have a good educational approach? How do you do it? By praying. Yes. Talk with the guardian angel of the child. But Vanessa, I'm not an ostensible medium. I don't hear it. It's okay. You will feel it. You will get insights because God is great. Remember, love is everything. It's not worthwhile. I see many parents, when they see their children in trouble, they start contacting several practitioners. It's very common. And enrolling them in several courses, practices, and therapies. They need your love. first and foremost. But I'm exhausted, Vanessa. I agree. But we need to find a way to balance ourselves so we can be the main therapist for this child. It's the therapy of love. And this is no utopia, it's real. Because often we want to escape from our own responsibility and tell people, fix my child, as if we're fixing a car. No, we need help, we as parents, so we can do our share. Of course, we can count on therapists, coaches, educators, but our share is not going to be only as a disciplinarian or as a provider or the cool parent. Oh, you can do whatever you like whenever you like. No, we need to involve our child in the word of blessing. We're talking about motherhood and how important it is to love our child, Virginia. Analia Franco, she says how important it is to involve our child with good feelings, right? And be attentive, to bring much love to our children, to make them feel safe. What do you think about it?
Great.
You like this?
Because sometimes kids, they get a little
hectic or excited.
They're excited, and sometimes they hear things that they don't really hear. Like they think it's scary, and then one day I was like FaceTiming a friend, and then I heard a small noise. I freaked out. I got a blanket, I made a tent, and I stayed under it until mommy came and told me there's nothing to be afraid of.
There you go. And then you felt the envelopment of love.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's important. So let us together, right, Virginia?
Yeah.
Thank you for helping us. Thank you. So let us then together. It's not easy. I know. There's no dream. Remember, there's no saint on earth. We all have common ground in now, especially nowadays, during this pandemic, in this transition of the earth. We need each other, friend. That's why the Spirit side of Virginia, we were allowed by God, and the good spirits asked us to create this app. There's a website, spiritisparenting.com or .org, and the app Spirit is Parenting, through which you're going to find support, affirmations, more instruction, and little by little we're going to add more contents so we support each other in our mission, because that's a mission that is undeniably unique above any other mission. So right now we're going to finalize with a prayer to give strength to all mothers and fathers, but especially mothers. We're going to close our eyes and visualize Master Jesus and Mother Mary giving passes, renewed energies onto all mothers in the world, making them feel strengthened, lucid in their mission. Visualize them feeling re-energized, replenished, confident, balanced, to go on in their most important mission, the unconditional love and watch care of their child. We pray for all parents in the world, especially those who are challenged by the issues brought up in their parenting pathway. We trust in you, dear God, that you provide to each one of us when we need the remedies for the mind, for the spiritual body, and the physical body, so we can fulfill your will of love on earth as it already is in heaven, and so be it. Thank you, friends, for joining us in this most important chapter of the Spirit of Truth, Parenting Edition. Today, Analia Franco blesses us with great, solid counseling. We embrace it. In the next 24 hours, we're going to pray, visualizing Mother Mary, Jesus, strengthening our dear mothers of the earth. And if you're a mother, visualize yourself receiving the shower of blessings, strengthening you today and always. Thank you, friends. We'll see you tomorrow here at Kardec Radio, God willing.